Greetings, everyone. As promised, I'm here to provide you with those receipts. Um, the general message here is for us to understand how we got to the position that we're at as Black people. When we look at the leadership in our different Black communities or Black countries, for that matter, you have to take responsibility, lay blame where it should be laid. And as much as I want to remind you of the 500 million of our ancestors who died because of slavery, we're not supposed to just focus on those who did it, but those who facilitated it. Uh, White folks couldn't have gone into Africa without the assistance of African people. And I'm here to say to you that if you understand how we got caught and kept in bondage all these years, we have to take responsibility. And the energy that lived in the type of African people that caught our people and sold them into captivity still remains today. I'm going to point out one such person who is a descendant of those who caught our people and held them in captivity, sold them into captivity. It's still happening in our time. And we can't sit back and say, oh, these ones are wicked or these political figures are awful and just let things be. We have power. And because of the 500 million African people that were murdered, that were caught and brought into captivity and died, we have a responsibility to honor them, to honor their memory, but also to make sure that it never happens again. Okay? So for the people of Jamaica, I have spent the last 3 days going through speeches coming out of your prime minister's mouth, not just his mouth, but all the other political figureheads surrounding him. And I'm here to point out that your days of slavery are imminent. The days of being caught and thrown back on the plantation, whipped and kicked, it's very close, if not here already. And you have the power to change things. One man who is leader of Jamaica has no power over you. You are the people. You are the power. And it's time for you to stop pretending like you don't see what's happening and acting like you have no agency. It's time for you to get up and say to leaders who you have elected that I am electing you because you have told us that you're here to serve us. And the moment they cease from doing that, you get rid of them. You get rid of them. You get rid of Andrew Holness. Now, I don't know who the replacement is, but you need to find out which party has someone who understand that if they don't give you what they promise they're going to give you, if they don't look out for you the way they are supposed to look out for you, they've got to go. Okay, I'm not going to delay this because it's going to be very long. You have to be very patient. The point of this is to go back over the live video that we watched, those of you who joined me, and to take that apart and to show you how Andrew Holness is a classist and Andrew Holness is a sellout and Andrew Holness cares nothing about the Jamaican people. He uses his education as a means and ways to control his people. And because he understands that a lot of people, especially the inner city community, for example, Almond Town, that is slated for destruction, and Black people thrown out and made a room made for his cronies and room made for the elite people or those who he respects. He has no respect for Jamaica or the Jamaican people. All he sees Jamaica is a resource for him to sell out. Sell out to other people. And I have no problem with Jamaica moving towards modernity. I have no problems with technology. I have no problems with the country being built up and using different, wonderful approaches to bringing us into that first world status. But what I have a problem with is when he's doing it at the expense of the Jamaicans, when he's seen the Jamaican people as chaka and talk about their condition as if it's their fault. That's what I have a problem with. And my ancestors are here with me this morning. They're here with me today, and they're going to help me break this down for you. And when you hear it, you're going to know it's the truth, and you're going to know what to do. Get rid of Andrew Holness. Vote him out. Protest against him. Every time he goes to a meeting to say anything, shut him down. Do not listen to him. And if the other political party has any sense, they will get up and understand that the people want change, and they don't want change from your mouth because you're all liars. Let someone within your midst rise up, speak truth, and do for the people what is important and necessary to be done, and it's to give them freedom. Now, the first thing I'm going to start with, so on my board here, I have the big reminder of the 500 million people, our ancestors who were killed, who died because of slavery. 500 million. There is no other race on this planet that will see this happen to their people and forget. Never. What I'm trying to do today is remove the binding spell that is cast upon the eyes of the Jamaican people. There is a spell. It's binding, and we're here to remove it. Then I want you to consider and remember these dates. 1894, that's when slavery was abolished in Jamaica. 1692, we had a great earthquake. 1907, there's also another earthquake. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to put Bob Marley's song, Get Up, Stand Up for Your Right. I would love to play it right now, but I don't want a copyright strike on this video because this is very important. This is me speaking for the ancestors and speaking for those who remain. And I'm here to make sure that this message goes out there. I ask you to share it. If it means that you have to like it in order for it to be present on the YouTube algorithm, please do that for me. And I'm going to also play Beyonce Listen, because I think those words are poignant. Now I'm starting with an article that I read in the Jamaica Gleaner, and I'm going to put it here, and I'll put the date and all that. I don't have the date on this because I printed it off. Okay, I'm going to read it for you, and I think it's a jump off point from my presentation this morning. It says, on acknowledging the need for the redevelopment of their communities, residents of Central Kingston appear to have welcomed Prime Minister Andrew Holness' reason for wanting to construct a new Parliament building at the National Heroes Park as he addressed them during a government-organized town hall meeting on Thursday night. Those of you who are with me on the live, you saw that, you heard all that stuff. And as the article says, the people appeared to have welcomed. They have welcomed his idea and welcomed him because they don't understand what he's about. And they're not hearing, because of his big fancy words, they're not really hearing him. And there's no one to break it down for the people of the inner city who don't have the experience as he does to go and become a BS artist and how to use words to cajole and to trick the people. But I'm here. Sometimes when you leave your country and you're thinking you're going for wealth and this and that, sometimes you're going away for knowledge. And I'm here to break down that meeting. That, I don't know if it was a town hall meeting, but I'm here to break it down for you people. Now, Milton Samuda, chairman of the Womer's Boys School Trust, wanted to know the compelling reason why the Parliament building had to be constructed inside the park. He pointed out that several professionals believe that building it outside of the park was a better option, as it would leave the existing green space intact. Holness, the con artist that he is, responded this way. He says, I don't want to get into semantics of any argument. He never wants, when he gets asked those hard questions, he becomes very defensive because he has his mind made up and it's like, leave me the hell alone, let me do what I want. So when you go to him, especially intelligent people, when they go to him and ask these hard questions, he always find a way to, whine or whistle himself out of it. He says, I don't want to get into the semantics of an argument, but the argument could very well be made about green spaces, that we need to develop those elsewhere also. That is not the only place where we could develop a green space. So in the same way, the Parliament could be located elsewhere, the green space could be developed elsewhere, but that's semantics. So what he's saying is, well, you're asking us not to develop the Parliament building here because of green space. I could argue that we could do, just as we could not build here, we could also make green space elsewhere, because he's already made up his mind. He's already scanned out the area. He's already worked with his investors and people who have shown an interest in that particular space. That's the reason why he's doing, because the people said, this is what we are interested in. This is the location we want. And he's there to please the people, but which people? Because it's not the Jamaican people. He continued, the compelling reason is that from a historical point of view, from the founding of the nation, it was conceived to have a government campus, and it was conceived to be here, which is central. You listen to the liar. He's a liar. You will note as well that in terms of establishing the cadastral coordinates, the central peg is right in this area. Remember, listen to the language, people. The typical person is not going to understand that. Using these huge words and, being so eloquent is what he has used and what he continues to use to gain attention and try to sustain power. So there's some historical claim to use in this post. He claims. Now, they started talking about unsanitary disposal of waste. The 2017 Prime Minister Youth Awardee, Lawrence Rowe, commended the HOLINESS-led administration for what he said was the opportunity to raise critical issues pertaining to Almontown, one of the communities to be affected. He told the Prime Minister that some residents were still disposing of their bodily waste in ways that were unsanitary and repulsive. I must tell you, Prime Minister, that people of Almontown up to today still defecate in plastic bags and throw them on people's housetops. And so, Prime Minister, we have been contributing to the National Housing Trust. We have been paying our taxes, and the development is to come. We see it as our partner draw, and we must commend you for implementing the program. What program? This person who's speaking has no idea. They actually think that this new initiative or these changes that are about to take place has to do with the Jamaican people. It has absolutely nothing to do with you, except to keep you in subservience, except to, dismiss you and displace you. It has nothing to do with you. So this individual is under the impression that this new program that is being implemented is to help them. How are people who live in Almontown, who defecate in bags and throw it on top of trees, how will they be able to live in this hub? Question for you to think about it. If they can't afford to build toilets in their houses, in their yards, how are they going to be able to live in this new city? I don't care who brings it as long as it comes, Rose says. Resident Sashana McLeod wanted to know if a site have been identified for those who might have to be relocated. The idea of relocation is not to take people out of the community. The idea of relocation is not to take the people of the community. Building don't make a community. He talks about he doesn't want to deal with semantics. This is semantics. This is a great example of semantics. He says, buildings don't make a community. It's the people who make a community. And he's right. It's the people who make a community. And he's not interested in making those people in that community feel like they're part of it. The energy comes from people who are here and who will come to live here. They form the community. It's not our intention to sanitize and uproot and destroy an area. He's a liar. So he uses the words. He makes you think that he's on your side. He said it's not his intention to sanitize and uproot and destroy the area. But that's what he's doing. He's sanitizing it. He's clearing it out of the dregs of society, because that's how he sees the people in the inner city. Do not let him fool you. He's an elitist. He's an elitist. He's a classist. He cares nothing. And I'm going to prove it in my notes today that the man is a classist, and he is just as evil as anybody who could be racist. Because it's individuals like him they have used against our people. And it's individuals like you and I who sit there and allow them to do it as if we have no power. We got power. And it's time to stand up and rise up. I'm saying rise up against Andrew Holness and get rid of him, because what his plans are not for the betterment of our people, but it's for our destruction. And I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to prove that to you with their story about bringing it back to a moment of glory. In addition to doing that, we will provide a modality by which it can be afforded. What modality of what can be afforded? Which person in Almontown will be able to afford that? He has not provided you with jobs or employment opportunities. What modality is going to provide you with? So I want to assure you, it's not the intention to relocate and disturb the community, but to provide the opportunity so that community members will live in better circumstances. You've got to be kidding me. That's the article. Okay, now, when I did my research, I went to ourjamaicaparliament.com. I want you all to go there and check it out. I wanted to look at all the submissions for the potential person. There are 5 persons now. It's narrowed down to 5 persons who will have the opportunity. They're all vying for the opportunity to build this new world, this new Kingston, this glorious place that the Prime Minister wants us to go back to. And the website shows this Golden Globe. I think they're in partnership with them. And I wrote down their mantra, growth, love, opportunity, and wealth. The 5 finalists got $10 million. The government, the Prime Minister handed over $10 million to the five finalists to prepare them for the initial stage. I guess they're going to show now 3D elements to what they're proposing to build. Okay, each team is given $2 million. The urban development spearheads this competition. Winning design will be chosen February 2019. So there's still a little time off. The winning person will be selected, or persons, because they're teams. The winning person will be selected in February of 2019. The first contradiction I'm going to point out here before I move on is that he says Jamaicans should be proud of their architects. But we are told the submissions come from the UK, from Trinidad, from Guyana, from USA, from Argentina, from Italy, from Canada, from Serbia, Turkey, and Iran. So I don't know why he's saying we must be proud. Because even if he initially picks a Jamaican architect, let's just hold that for now. The location slated for development is Kingston. The areas affected, communities close to National Heroes Park. 300 years of prime real estate, to be precise. They're going to need 300 acres of prime real estate to carry this out. The aim of this redevelopment, according to them, is to uplift the mood of the environs, to give value and a sense of place. And the question is, to whom? Uplifting the environment, ain't nothing wrong with that. Giving value, to whom? A sense of place, to whom? Those are questions I want you to think about. To continue to provide opportunity for our citizens to partake of their democratic right. How? So this new venture that they're about to go in is to provide opportunity for our citizens to partake of their democratic right. If you go back on Thursday night, the individuals who were asking questions got pushed aside, the ones who were asking real questions, not the ones that they planted in the audience to tell him how wonderful they were, but the ones who had real questions were not allowed to ask those questions. Here is what he has promised. Freedom. And I guess the ones who are submitting these things. Freedom to gather, to talk, to make ourselves heard, to eat, to drink, to connect with native and trade. Does this sound like he's doing this for the Jamaican people? Their freedom for ourselves. Who is ourselves in this question? To ourselves to be heard, to eat, to drink, to connect with native. If you're doing it for the Jamaican people, you're not going to say native. The individuals who have this as their goal or their aim to please, to connect with the native, therefore shows that you are coming here in a position of power. And the native are people who you want to get to know you. Who is ourselves? Question to think about. Then we see this idea that it's going to be the building or this new renovation or this new redevelopment is going to ennoble, it's going to inspire, it's going to be soothing, it's going to be empowering. To whom? Let's go back to the aim. To accommodate a community for the people, for urban dwellers, for rural visitors, for tourists to engage in convivial life. These are the words they use that just go over people's head. Convivial pertaining to feast or to festivity. That's what that word means. Earlier, we are told that we are celebrating the architects of Jamaica. So here we go. First submission. First person who made it to the top 5 is Forms Architect Limited. And it says, I am because we are. When you go into their, check them out online, most of their design look like malls. So even though they have slated these 5 persons to be selected, all 5, in my opinion, are going to be used for this development. Every one of them is going to benefit. Number 2, GSA, Architects and Planners, an international consultancy firm, sustainable urban development focusing on urban design. That's what they do. So they work at sustainable building sustainable urban development, and they focus on urban designs, planning landscape, waterfront development, the submission proposes. So this GSA, this is their proposal, and truthfully speaking, it's going to be a draw between GSA, and I'll mention the other one that I think that they're probably going to use. So GSA's submission proposed commercial and residential block, world-class cultural and entertainment facilities, hub for the relocation of government facility within an urban core, workplace, home leisure, culture and entertainment, performance art shelter, carousel, botanical conservatory, and a historical market. These guys are front running. They're front and center. This looks very good. This is what they're looking for, really. Grand Veranda, led by architect Ravi Sittal. I think this man is from India. The next one, number 4, is Design Collaborative. And this one is very attractive, very beautiful. I'm thinking it's going to be between Design Collaborative and the GSA that they will select. And then, of course, there's always a chance that Stephen Facey and Laura Facey Cooper, and if I'm not right, I forgot to do my research on this, but I think Laura Facey Cooper might be the one who designed the statue in Emancipation Park. This group, Stephen being the CEO, Managing Director of Jamaica Property Company Limited, Chairman and Chief Executive of Panjam Investment Limited. So this is a group that is based in Jamaica. And I think Stephen Facey sits on many boards, chairman of many boards. So I want to introduce you to the Prime Minister's argument and his justification for doing this and going forward. He says, 1, there is an energy waiting to be tapped. 2, people want change. Here's a politician speaking. People want change. That whole term change, I'm starting to hate it because I realize it's been used on people to trick people, especially black people, because we're always looking for change. And so people understand that when they use that word, it's magical. It's a binding spell upon our people. Number 3, no one will be made worse off. 4, he's acting in the best interest of the people. He's acting in the best interest of the people. As I present my argument today, you tell me if you think that's what he's doing. 4, he's acting in the best interest of the people. 5, he says he's a post-independence baby. And because he's a post-independence baby, he has no recollection. He doesn't care anything about how we gained our independence. He doesn't care about what happened to our ancestors. He's just saying, I am modern. I have no time to worry about all that stuff that happened. I'm post-independent. That's what that really means. 6, breaking from history which shapes our government. He's breaking from history. I am not concerned about what happened in the past. That's not my problem. I'm moving forward. I'm accommodating the interests that are going to allow me to stay wealthy and to focus on me and my children. That's what he's really saying. 7, implores individuals to clear away from the concerns. He says, whatever concerns you have, it's no business of mine. Move away from that. Clear away from the concerns. Get to the heart of it. Because we're moving forward. So when he's saying we're having these town hall meetings, they're a sham. Because he already made up his mind, pretty much like how he made up his mind about NIDS. He's not a government that wants to invite the people and hear what they have to say and work with them. Initially, making the decision himself because he's leader, but at least incorporating what the people feel or what they're saying. He's not like that. He's prejudiced. He's prejudiced. He's an elitist. He's a horrible human being. Andrew Holness says his desire is to restore former glory. Former glory. And the persons who spoke before he came on stage told us what the former glory was. The former glory, in my mind, the time that he gave us in 1692 and 1907 is what they referred or reference as a time of glory. And that's a period of slavery and where African nations got pillaged, particularly Jamaica. They said that they want to return the period of 1692 to 1907. That's very telling. Take attention to these dates. These are the dates I told you to remember. 1894, the abolition of slavery. 1692. Do you see how many 100 years passed before slavery? And he said this is a time of glory. 1692 and 1907. Not my words, his words. And I'm gonna give you that link so you can go back and listen to his speech. Slavery was abolished in 1894. Andrew Holness says that the fear being exhibited that the government will act in such a way as to disenfranchise the mass, the people of Jamaica, is unwarranted. He said the idea that he's doing things that is going to affect the people, disenfranchise. I hate that word now because of Andrew Holness. I think I'm going to retire it after today. And the fact that he's not trying to disenfranchise the people, he said it's unwarranted. Why are you worried? Why are you talking about, I'm not doing this for you? I'm doing this for you. The con artist, the con man, actually has the nerve to say he's doing it for the Jamaican people. He argues that you can criticize government, but you must not erase the direction. So what is the point of critically analyzing anything? To just accept it anyway? That's what he's saying. So talk, but don't try to stop what he's doing. Essentially, that's what he's saying. Yet he says he's doing this for the people. Give example. He gives the example of police presence in the inner city community and boasts that it's a proud moment for him. And I have mentioned in another video where I say having police presence means that there's problems, there's trouble. As much as the police is there to serve and protect us, it's best when we don't see them, because then that means we have peace. We have harmony in our community. He speaks as if he's intelligent, but book smart doesn't mean that you're intelligent. And I'm saying, in order for us to have a real leader, a real serious leader, that we have to tap into our spirituality and not just be in the physical sense and not be so freaking greedy where you're just thinking about money. Come, bring me the money. Come, bring the money. You can't trust people who are like that. You can't trust individuals who will just take money from everybody because they'll sell you. They'll put you right back to slavery. The benefits to individuals getting the contract to develop Kingston and the Parliament building. I'm listing these. Private investors are asked to invest in downtown, and it says, come. There's a general call. Come, invest. He doesn't care who it is, just come. So here is what they have to gain from coming. He says, number one, a grant relief will be given to individuals who develop areas suffering from blight. And the area suffering from blight is the poor people in the inner city. The 300 acres that he's going to go around and collect and force people off because they have no choice. They have to sell. If they don't sell, they're getting bulldozed, or they're going to, trust me, some earthquake is going to take place in these areas. Mark my word. Why would they mention these 2 times when all these people die? That's going to be a part to make this thing move faster. There will be an earthquake in Jamaica. There will be an earthquake in Jamaica, but it won't be a natural one. So they're going to they'll be giving relief for people, the area suffering from blight. Number 2, income tax credit, 33 1/3 capital expenditure. 3, urban renewal tax incentive. 4, when developers acquire land, no stamp duty. So for example, if I decide that I want to be a part of the development, there will be individuals who are there to give me a loan, even if I don't have any money. As long as I have the right skin color, I come from the right place, I will be given money to develop. And the person who loaned me the money, more than likely not a Jamaican, is going to get special considerations as well. If you lend this person coming to the country to develop money, you're going to get these breaks as well. The objective, they say, the objective, see with me people, because I'm going through this, it's a lot. The objective is to accelerate development and breathe new life into areas once considered jewels. The areas that once considered to be jewels. They want to rebuild this. They want to energize it. They want to bring it back to be. We are told that it was not strange to see any less than 200 vessels in the Kingston Harbor. And he's talking about this period of 1692. That's what the lady referenced when she was giving her speech. She says, and I'm using her words, I'm using their words. I've spent hours typing this out. that it wasn't strange to see any less than 200 vessels in the Kingston Harbor. There is a call on Jamaica to welcome our return to the former glory. Prime Minister said it, and the woman who spoke, I don't remember her name now, she said, we are calling, we are interested to go back to our former glory. We are told that a little seaside town up to 6 Mile was celebrated as a commercial center. 1,700 miles of waterfront, we are told, was a former glory that they wait to restore. In the speech on Thursday night, two periods were mentioned, the 1692 earthquake in Kingston, and they said that the individuals who were there must remember that they are the descendants of those people who died at that earthquake. At that time, Kingston was known as a pirate haven. 1692, what the government is calling a period of glory, was considered as the pirate heaven. And we know who pirates are. We know what they do. We know where they come from. Okay, and that's the time they said they want to restore, where they're celebrating the ships that were docked into the harbor, ships that came there and raped and killed and abused our people and transported people in those ships like cargo. Our people. Our people. That's why I tell you, if I die because I do this, because see, these governments, they're the ones who are responsible for killing people. They're the ones who send people around to murder other people to make way to do what they want to do. They're the ones who have made Jamaica into this violent place so they can justify doing what they want to do. Because they always claimed that they couldn't control crime and that their hands were up in the air and they were looking for divine intervention. And suddenly when the United States of America started showing Jamaica as this horrible place to go, suddenly Montego Bay became very peaceful. Let me go through some history lesson to you, because this is a history lesson, people. It's a history lesson, it's an English lesson, and it's a political science lesson. Okay, that's why it's going to be long. On this day in 1692, a massive earthquake devastated the infamous town of Port Royal. Hear that? Infamous. The moment of glory that they're talking about. Historians have said the infamous town of Port Royal in Jamaica, killing thousands. Port Royal was built on a small island off the coast of Jamaica in the harbor across from the present-day Kingston. Many of the buildings where the 6,500 residents lived and worked were constructed right over the water. In the 17th century, Port Royal was known throughout the New World as the headquarters for piracy, smuggling, and debauchery. It was described as the most wickedest and sinful city in the world and one of the lewdest in the Christian world. Is it a moment of glory that he's talking about, that he's going to bring you back to? Historians say it was the most wickedest and the most sinful city in the earth. That's what he wants to bring you guys back to. That's what he's saying. They didn't do their research because guess what? They're so used to people who didn't get the chance to go to school. They're so used to people who are even educated, who don't have any ability to think for themselves. So they think they can just put this out. This is a World Wide Web. I watched that live. Me and my followers watched that live and see him come to his doom. Because that's what's happening. Because now I'm going to show the people how they do it and how they have no mind and they have nothing about their African consciousness. The historian, and I'm sure a white person said this, that it was the wickedest city in the world. And he said that's what he wants to bring the people back to. Earthquakes in these areas were not uncommon, but were usually rather small. In 1688, a tremor had toppled 3 homes, but 4 years later, in the morning of June 7th, 3 powerful quakes struck Jamaica. A large tsunami hit soon after, putting half of the Port Royal under 40 feet of water. The HMS Swan was carried from the harbor and deposited on top of a building on the island. It turned out to be a refuge for survivors. Residents also soon discovered that the island of Port Royal was not made of bedrock. The relatively loosely packed soil turned almost to liquid during the quake. Many buildings literally sank into the ground. In the aftermath, virtually every building in the city was uninhabitable, including 2 forts. Corpses from the cemetery floated in the harbor alongside recent victims of the disaster. And the woman said that the people must remember that they are the descendants of these people. This is what they have done. They have always tried to find the horrific things that happened in our past to tie us to. The pride must come from this. the suffering, the death of all our people. They don't know. They're idiots. A lot of them come out here speaking big words, but they are empty vessels. They are weak minds. They are traitors in our midst. So when we're busy talking about slavery and talking about what white folks have done, we know white folks have done what they needed to do to build themselves. Can we just continue to worry about what they've done and what they continue to do? Those who do the horrible things or those who do the good things. Our focus is not on these folks. We need to look at our participation in our own destruction. Do you understand that? Okay. So on the main island, Spanish Town was also demolished. Even the north side of the island experienced great tragedy. 50 people were killed in a landslide. In all, about 3,000 people lost their lives on June 7. This is what the woman says that she's tying you to. That you must remember that you come from this and that this movement. Remember, there's going to be an earthquake in Jamaica, people. There's going to be an earthquake. The evidence is there. Watch it and mark my word. There was little respite in the aftermath. Widespread looting began that evening, and thousands more died in the following week due to sickness and injury. Aftershocks discovering the survivors from rebuilding. Okay, so aftershocks, the earthquakes, the aftershocks that followed, discouraged the survivors from building back in Port Royal. Port Royal had to go. That was the spirit of our ancestors that rise up, and they're going to rise up again. So instead, the city of Kingston was built and remains to this day the largest city in Jamaica. Again, in my description, I'm going to put all the important links so you can go and check it out for yourself. Now we're going to go to 1907, the other area that they said, moment of glory. In 1907, 1,500 people died. There was an earthquake which shook the capital of the island of Jamaica with a magnitude of 6.5 on the moment magnitude scale. On Monday, June 14th at about 3:30 p.m. local time was considered by many writers of that time one of the world's deadliest earthquake recorded in history. Every building in Kingston was damaged by the earthquake and subsequent fires, which lasted for 3 hours before any effort could be made to check them, culminating in the death of 800 to 1,000 people, and left approximately 10,000 homeless and 25 million in material damage. This is the period they want to remind you of. And this is what they're saying. You are descendants of this place. Remember your suffering, people. That's what they're saying. Remember your suffering. This is what happened to you. How is that a period for us to celebrate? How is it a period for us to fashion our ideas and the things that we want to do in life going forward, to be reminded of that? How is that a good thing? What clue lies in these statements? What does it have to do with the people? Why is this mentioned? Why should the people see this development as something to celebrate? How does knowing they are the descendants of these individuals who suffered this way important to how they live, their lives will be affected? Why did they pick these two dates? And how could people claim that they're intelligent? How could people who are elected to lead our people, African people, to find redemption, to being free, to being independent? How does linking us to this time useful? Because you know the typical person is not going to research it. It's just going to go over their head. The people cheered that night. They clapped that night. And at first I was very disrespectful because I was saying they're fools. But they're not fools. They just don't know better. And they trust these individuals. This is this childlike relationship they have with these politicians. They trust these individuals. And that is the most, heartbreaking part of it. They trust them. We are told that it is Norman Manley's plan and vision that Andrew Holness is about to carry out. In his speech, he talked about how he discovered some handwritten thing, and all of a sudden it was typed out of Manley's idea. Now, Norman Manley was born July 4th, 1893, and died September 2nd, 1969. So I'm thinking, not that our forefathers, our founding fathers couldn't have left us with impressions of what we can carry on, because the truth is, other nations, especially first world nations, really grow and build on the foundation of their people. That's not a bad thing. But Andrew Holness, who live in this time, is telling me that he is just finally putting in the plans of Norman Manley, who died September 2, 1969. 2 years before I was born. That would be 53 years ago. Andrew Holness says, when flying over the areas slated for development, the area looks chaka-chaka. Now, please understand that Andrew Holness speak of the place and the people synonymously. Oftentimes, when it seems like he's addressing the people, it's a place he's talking about. And a lot of time when he's talking about the place, he's talking about the people. So when he says chaka-chaka, he's not talking about just how it looks, because you can't blame the people for how their place look. When you have not built any roads, you have no running water in their community. These people are not the ones who provide these things. The governments do. And if they don't have these things, therefore you failed, or everybody else before you who was a leader, they failed the people. He says he talked about flying over in his helicopter. Oh, wonderful that he has these privileges to fly over in his helicopter. And when you look, you see a sea of rusty zinc. A sea of rusty zinc. This is the contempt. This is the disdain he feels for the people. I see a sea of rusty zinc. An embarrassment to see. What he's saying about individuals who live there. This is a question. The sea of rusty zinc that puts him off so much, that is so embarrassing for him. Because the sea of rusty zinc is not in the urban center where, they have their political or economic center. He's talking about the communities. He's talking about the people that live in the community. He said it's not the building that made the communities the people. So why is he mentioning the building as if that is important? Okay, let's hold that for now. He speaks of leaky roofs, poor road condition, poor infrastructure. This is his way now of tapping into the people's spirit to make them feel like he's actually talking about them. But what he's doing is mocking them, he's insulting them, he's jeering them. That's all he's doing. What you're talking about, people's leaky roofs, their poor road condition, their poor infrastructure, is that their fault? Is that their fault, Mr. Andrew Holness? Their leaky roof tells you that their economic condition is terrible and that there's no opportunities in their country so that they can fix their roads. The road conditions you talk about, are they supposed to take their money to build roads? The millions and trillions of dollars that you borrow to fix the roads, you deliberately made the people suffer so that you can then come today and use their plight for the reason why you have to relocate them. So the question is, who is responsible for building good roads? Who? His solution for remedying their situation is to ask the people within a 300-mile radius to evacuate. The leaky roof, the poor road condition, is directly correlated to poor government and the abuse of their power in neglecting the people. Thus, does this not prove that these plans work in tandem to destroying the very people he claimed to want to build, the very people who is promising prosperity, the very people who jump up and say, yay, thinking that this has anything to do with them? Rebuilding is not for them. He's doing it for his friends. He's doing it for the people who he's inviting to come to benefit, and not just the ones who want to build, those who give them money to build. Every one of these 5 people will benefit from this, except the Jamaican people. The Prime Minister also says the area is waiting for something positive to happen to it. The area is waiting for something positive to happen to it. That means the people who are there, they're negative. The people who are there are not the resource. The people who are there are to be removed. Something, because once it remains the way it is, it's negative. You've got to listen to people's words. They can't hide their truth. Andrew Holness have always been very prejudiced. That's why he made the mention that Jamaican teachers couldn't teach his child, he homeschool his kids because the system wasn't good enough for his children. Hold that for now. He comes now to show that how he actually cares about the people and what his initial plans were. And he had the idea that he wanted to build a school, academy of excellence. But it was not easily accessible. What do you think he means? He wants a clear passage with dealing with ghetto people. That's what he's saying. He has insulted them openly, then distract the people with promises, appeal to their need even as he takes away their dignity. So he's saying, I was going to build a school initially. That's what I had plans to do, to build a school. But, there was no, infrastructure wasn't right. And then he started telling the people, it's about your upliftment. It's about success. He's done that before. In the same video, I'm going to put your links of different times that he's gone to St. Thomas before he got elected. or when he wants to get elected, and tell the people the same thing. And St. Thomas happens to be one of the poorest parishes in Jamaica to this day. Poorest parishes in Jamaica. They are being punished because they got up and rebelled against a system. And he is a part of that system. He is the one that is being used. In our governments, in our countries, our African countries, they always plant a mole. And the mole looks like me and you. And you never know that you're your enemy. Our greatest enemy is ourselves. Comes from within. No one can penetrate your walls. No one can harm you unless you got someone opening that gate or that door to let in your enemy. Excuse me. He says he needs more land and questioned where he would find it. But he has found this land. He couldn't find the land to build schools for our people. But he's going to find 300 acres to build this grand plan. Not for the nation's children, not for our people, but for business ventures and investors. From the beginning, Andrew Holness have always demonstrated his interest. He had said when he lost that election to Portia Simpson that if they didn't vote for him, the investors were not going to come. They're not going to come unless it's him, because guess what? He's the one they've been paying to do this job. Andrew Holness says Jamaica deficit is in building. Our deficit is in building? Let's explain that. Let's look at the meaning of deficit. The amount by which something, especially a sum of money, is too small. Deficit occurs when an entity, government expenditure, exceeds its revenue. Government usually borrows money to fill the gap or fund the deficit. Take action to getting things done. So what he's going to do, this deficit, which is the building, he's going to borrow money to fix the building. He's a builder. He makes it very clear, but you're not listening. Prime Minister says the area has been developed is prime real estate. He does not see the people, but the place where they live. At times refer to their land as if he's talking about them. So when he's talking about the interest in their land, the prime real estate, they're thinking it's about them. But it's not about them, because poor things, they don't have the education, they don't have the intellect to understand when they're being deceived. He justifies his plans as a solution to what he says is ceded ground to chaos. He's saying if we keep things the way it is, it's ceded ground to chaos. These people, they're not going to be of any good. Let's remove them. The people living in the deplorable conditions, he has no real concerns for them. Just justification as to why he must act swiftly to remove them from their homes. All that they know, all they're familiar with, move them from their homes, put them somewhere else, get rid of them. Same thing that they did in Tivoli Garden. The Tivoli Garden inquiry, so many people died. So many poor people died in that Tivoli Garden inquiry. Because it started then, shifting and moving the people away from what is considered to be real prime estate. Andrew Holness essentially has decided to create a divide between uptown and downtown, the elitist that he is. See, Jamaica has problems with prejudice. We talk about the colorism, but the biggest one is classism. And he's a classist. Do not forget that he's a classist. He's a very proud man, and he's not proud in a good way. His pride is destructive to our people. He tells them they do not want to live in that condition. So this is how he's convincing the people. You don't want to live in that condition. Now he's wanting to make it feel like it's about them. You don't want to live in that condition. He acknowledging it. He's doing that. He's acknowledging their suffering in order to trick them into believing he's doing it for them. The illusion. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your friends. Run away these politicians from you when they come with their BS and their mumbo jumbo. They don't care anything about you. They just want your vote. And the moment you do, they abandon you. Andrew Holness has a big monstrosity of a home right there in Kingston, and in the very community that he served, you have sewage running through people's yard. The Prime Minister who wants to give you prosperity and wealth. Lisa Anna, you seem to care right now about the people. And one day I hope that you remember this, that we're watching, and that you can only fool people some of the time, but you can't fool us all of the time. Damon Crawford, they don't want you. And I'm not PNP, so you don't get this wrong. But I'm saying this party has to go because they're trying to bury our people. He speaks of prosperity and tells them the evidence of their success is when they move out. When they move out, the evidence of your success, if you've lived here 15, 20, 30 years, how is this? They have made it so difficult in these areas with the violence and the crime, ignoring it, turn a blind eye to it, that people are going to gladly accept these choices and run away. These same people, if they were to hear me speak now, they'll be angry at me, but I'm okay. I understand. I love them still. Using the deplorable condition they live in to trick them into believing he's doing this for them. All they're doing is making room for expansionists and capitalists. His words are empty, but he's a cruel man who understands that many of the people are uneducated and they do not understand his big words. Just know the understanding, just knowing and thinking that he understands their struggle, they then succumb to his wickedness. But are they asking themselves, if our condition is dire and our abode, our homes, are a source of shame for the Prime Minister, why is he not developing our area and we continue to live here? That would truly be a way of saying, I'm empowering you, I'm changing your condition, I'm giving you an opportunity to live in a place where you feel good about yourself, not move you and make it into some monstrosity or make it into some appealing place for his former colonizers. Here are his lies. He says, I'm not trying to deprive you of your homes, neither am I taking away what is known, but here to give you and your children a better future. How? I'm not trying to take you out of your home, but I need your place. I'm not trying to do anything to destroy you. I'm doing this for your future. How? How? The people cheered because he's a con man. The con man said this to the people and they cheered because they didn't hear anything else. The trickster who knows how to fool his subjects is winning because the people don't understand. And those who understand and question him, he pushed them aside. Even as he tells them he cares, he says there's no area of Jamaica that won't come under development and mention every single area where poor people live. He's a classist, an extreme prejudice person. Not too long ago, may I remind you again, he said the teachers were not good enough to teach his children. He says he's paying attention to every square inch of Jamaica, putting plans together to improve these areas. He says his plans are an exercise in sovereignty. What have I told you thus far? Do you see any evidence of sovereignty? Let's examine the word sovereignty. Remember, this is an English class, okay? So let's look at the meaning. Supreme power or authority. That's what sovereignty means. Supreme power or authority. There's no way you can have supreme power or authority when you have an open door saying to people, come in, come in, come in, bring the money in, come, come, come. We are indebted to China. We're indebted to Spain now, I can tell. We're indebted to all these individuals that he has opened the door to and let into our country. What sovereignty is he talking about? Again, we look at synonym: jurisdiction, rule, supremacy, dominion, power, ascendancy, hegemony, domination, authority, control, influence. This is what I'm thinking, domination. So instead of using sovereignty, let's skip that and say domination. He's setting up the country for us to be dominated, for us to be controlled. Their sovereignty over the islands. He's giving other people sovereignty over the island. He's not giving you sovereignty. You're not listening to this man, people. The authority of a state to govern itself or another state. We are giving authority for other persons to come and govern the state. That is national sovereignty, is when we are doing things on our own. We are creating things that are allowing us to build and to grow from within without answering to anybody. In the same definition, it says, the colony demanded full sovereignty. And if you're not demanding full sovereignty and you're opening your doors and saying, come free for all, I will give you money, I will actually pay you, I will reward you for coming here and building here and taking over. Because all these benefits he's offering is paying them to come to keep you into captivity. Does borrowing money and opening the island to everyone with the right amount of money exercise sovereignty? Answer my question here, people. With a stone face, Andrew Holness says individuals can come to Jamaica, look at the parliament, go to Bob Marley and see the hills of St. Andrew, drive past the park, the beautifully designed park with all its amenities for concerts and security for tourists. Does this have to do with the people he proposed or professed to care about? The statement revealed his truth. An elitist appealing to foreigners who are wealthy, erasing the people of Jamaica who are poor to accommodate others. That's what he's doing. Can I repeat this part? It's truth. This elitist man is appealing to foreigners and those who are wealthy to erase the people of Jamaica who are poor in order for him to accommodate the other people. He is looking at every area where poor people live that could possibly be close to the waterfront, areas that individuals would want to come and make it into paradise. Even as he pushes aside his own people, he clearly states that housing that currently exists has to be relocated. So it's not accommodated in, and it's like there's no if and about it. The areas that we're going to develop, you have to go. There's no debate, no kind of consultation with the people. He clearly states that the Minister of Finance, Minister of Education, building can be repurposed. And I'm telling you, that's code word for saying, when I repurpose this, it become apartment, it could become business, offices and so on. Does someone from Almontown, can they go rent one of those buildings? Can they go live there? It has nothing to do with them, yet he's bringing this in there as if he's doing it for the people. Apartment building, business offices are the solution. He states that the National Housing Trust is now acquiring land. In other way, forcing people out, going to persons, and yes, they're going to offer them money to leave, and some people will leave because the violence that are in some of these areas, people will gladly go. So they trick the folks into leaving. And these people are not going to say, yes, we're staying here to develop. They won't say that because they're suffering. They're scared because they've already put it in place to scare the people so that they don't want to stay. They make it long enough. They put the violence in the air long enough, allow it to happen long enough so that the people get tired. And when they come with the offer, they gladly go. In other words, when the National Housing Trust is acquiring lands, they are approaching individuals to sell their property. They have no choice. This mass land grab is clearing ways for investors. The supposed town hall meeting on Thursday night gave the impression that it was there to hear the people's concern, but it was a facade. A big facade. He said, we are focused on people losing, you are focused on people losing homes, but you got no sewage. You have no reliable water supply. You have no roads. They're in terrible condition. So what is the fuss? Do you hear this man? You hear this wicked man telling the people, what's the fuss? Sewage running through your yard. So he knew that all along. He saw that and waited for it to get worse. No roads. Why build roads to these people when you had these plans? These plans go back 10 years. And again, I'm going to put articles here showing you how long the JLP party was planning to do this. Long time coming. You're losing nothing, he says, because you got nothing. But did the people hear that statement? No, they didn't hear it. Woo! He's doing this for us. The one person says it's their partner draw. This pompous traitor tells the people to their face that they're nothing, that they got nothing, that they should be glad that they're moving out. You are sight for sore eye. That's what he's telling you in pejorative terms. Pretending to care, he told them their area is a link and an open corridor to easy flow for this new development. Essentially, they are blocking progress, but every so often he reminds them, I do it for you. I'm doing it for you. How? Suddenly he's able to put in infrastructure. His own words, this infrastructure supports development. We will bear the cost of the roads, sewers, water main, communication portals to have a smart city, giving consideration to the public transportation and technology. So as we are building this area, don't worry, we're going to give you public transportation. The people want to have cars too. They want to drive cars too. The people want to have what you have and what your friends that you're invited in to have. Telling them about public transportation as if that's the solution to them. They want better. They want what you want for yourself and your children. Wicked Andrew Holness. Unquote. Let's go back to what he's saying. He says he wants the people to use public passenger transportation, essentially saying stick to taking the buses. So where's the prosperity message here? For whom is this promise something to celebrate? Not the people in the area surrounding the development. Nothing for them to celebrate because they're going to be moved away. They're a sight for sore eye. Their place look chaka. Let's recap. Holness intends to put up 14 government buildings, build an economic hub. He boasts that the Ministry of National Security rental budget is $2.4 billion. $2.4 billion. They are using the IMF money and all these loans that they borrow to pay, to rent. What kind of government? Doesn't that not show that they're dunce? Does it not show that why would you have land? Why would you have access to this kind of money and not build? You're paying rent. So who are they paying rent to? Are they paying to Jamaican people? No, they're making other people come there and build offices and then they rent. Wicked losers, dunce. And you got these people leading you. You're not thinking, you're not. And the ones who are educated in Jamaica, their voice is silent. You should stop it. It's our responsibility to make sure that our people don't get cast back into slavery. It's our responsibility to stand up to these wicked men and women in the world and to say no more. It's calling for public and private partnership, more investors with benefits too grand to ignore. If I was an investor and I was in the right hues, right skin color, right race, I would run on this. I would jump on this because they're going to pay me for building the country and I own the things in it. These buildings are elaborate. These luxurious ideas are going to draw foreigners to come and see. In his words, ships shall be passing like they did in the glorious days when pirates came to our shores. He says all the ships passing must stop in Kingston. He's referenced to this, referenced in 1692, 1907, one of the worst time in African people history. He says when they come to Jamaica, Jamaica will become the Miami of the Caribbean. Center of commerce, logistic with ports, retire to paradise, even as the people are pushed aside. He says retire to paradise. See, he's not talking about the Jamaican people because you're not going to say retire to paradise. When you say retire to paradise, you're talking about people who lived abroad, who come here, individuals who are from other foreign countries come here. He's selling the people the idea that Jamaica can be theirs. Don't worry about it. I will get rid of the Jamaican people. Don't worry about them. I know how to fix them. How does this benefit the Jamaican people? The journey to independence must show leadership and our leaders who cherish its people, does everything to promote health, wealth, and racial pride. Self-governance promotes building from within and assisting the people to aspire for greatness. No one left behind, no one left to feel worthless or publicly shamed, as he did those people Thursday night. Our success depends on our commitment to raise every person to realize their greatest potential. Building our nation requires a leader who understands that it's the people who are their greatest assets. It is the people, our natural resources. Until our governments understand that, we are always going to be slaves. Rise up, Jamaican people. And your wholeness must go. We have a problem within our country. We have a problem within our country, and it's our politicians who have cast a web over your eyes, who have put a binding spell upon you that render you useless and weak. We have no problems in moving to modernity. Infrastructure is essential. It's preserving our historical sites. That's very important. But it's our history of resistance and survival that must be celebrated. And not a movement towards celebrating our bondage or an attempt to push the people back to servitude. Nor will we allow our people to be pushed out of their homes, shoved aside to accommodate many of who are our enemies. When you have a general call for people to come into our country and to build within our country, individuals who are not vetted, because if it's open, some of these submissions they said was made anonymous. So you don't care who it is. Individuals who hate our guts, who come and take our country and tell us we can't come to the ocean, we can't come to the river, we can't come to this part of the mountain because it's ours now. Leaders who have done this, they did that in Africa. That's why we end up in Jamaica. Our own people sold us into captivity and continue to do that. We are pushed out of our homes, shoved aside to accommodate many of who are our enemies. Our people were captured and sent into bondage by our own people. Can I remind you? But with the power and the blood sacrifice of our ancestors, we will not allow Andrew Holness or anyone like him to send us back into a horrific past. The past of glory that they celebrate, 1692 and 1907. They said that. And I taped it and listened to them that they changed me. And I will use my voice and my platform to call them out, to let the people of Jamaica know that Andrew Holness is an enemy. Stand up to him and remove him from office. He's the worst prime minister Jamaica's ever had. He's a classist. He's a dishonest man. Look at the area where he lives and the surrounding areas again. And look at the switch. Look at what's going on with people. Look at his pride in building. Not for the poor people of Jamaica, but for those who line his pocket with gold. He's a wicked man. He's an evil man. And I'm begging you to open your eyes and do not let him deceive you. Listen to what he's saying. He doesn't really lie to you. He just uses words to trick you, to bind you in his web of lies. Stay blessed, everybody. Amandla, rise up, people. Stop allowing these wicked people, these wicked traitors in our midst to sell us out, to push us aside, to bring us back into captivity. Stay blessed.